So hello guys, welcome back to another Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Papa P, and on the other end it is Steve Hall. Yes, I introduced myself as Papa P. I really do like this. I really like it when people call me Papa P, and also I myself call myself Papa P.
I'll take that one, as I think that came from me, Papa P.
Yeah.
But I like that. It is me, Papa P, on the podcast. Yeah. It just flows off the tongue very nicely.
Yeah.
So
with the mustache as well, it's kind of, I can be recognized then. It's not just like a just random person without a beard and with a
Papa
generic
P,
name.
And
that's great.
Soon to be a neck tattoo, maybe.
Perhaps. I don't know. So Steve, Mike, so our physio, and we are going to Vienna, Das Gym, in October. I don't want to spoil the dates because otherwise lots of people will be there. Do you remember the times like back in the 90s when the huge superstars actually then were kind of accommodating in a certain hotel and people were just like waiting outside the hotel room? You can imagine it to be that way when we are arriving, and that's why I don't want to spoil the dates. Like Michael Jackson back then, you know?
Yeah. We're going to have all our haters come for us as well.
Probably as well.
Those guys, we're Das Gym. But I love how I introduced it on my story as like, oh, we're going to Das Gym. I was like, well, we're going to Vienna, but we're only going to Vienna for Das Gym. It could be in any like European city and we'd be going there anyway, or country rather. So I'm very excited about that trip. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and just in case, no, they don't have a tattoo parlor shop in there. Steve was just referring to that because so my family during that time, they will be gone. I know it sounds odd and wrong. I don't know what it's called on English. There's something like Kur, where someone is then booking themselves into a place to really calm down, relax, just for a certain amount of time. And I don't know whether it's only a German thing, to be honest.
That's where your family are going?
Yeah, so Katie has a prescription for that, and it is together with the kids. Because it's for 3 weeks. I'm not going, of course, right?
Yeah, wow, it's 3 weeks.
Yes, it's so crazy. That's because mad. It will be the first time ever since we're together, even that we are kind of separated for so long.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, the longest we've been separated for was like, I think 4 days or so.
You're sure Katie didn't make it up and she's just leaving you?
No. I've seen everything for it, the prospects and stuff like this. But because of that, I have a little bit time available. And there's this one tattoo artist located in Vienna that I've been following since a longer time. And I was just like, hey, why not stay there for a little bit longer? And I will just ask him whether he has some free appointments. And I was just like reaching out because I was quite certain that he doesn't really have any kind of free appointments. And he said like, perhaps on the weekend, I'm actually doing a new shout out for then new appointments and just be on it.
Okay.
Send me a message very quickly to then save your spot. And I optimally, of course, want to then get the tattoos done after the training sessions. So yeah.
That'd suck if you didn't.
Yeah. And that's why, hopefully, if that turns out to be the case, then I will be probably staying for another 1 to 2 days to then get my neck tattooed.
Where and how big and the design, have you thought about all of that? I guess you have.
I mean, I would definitely both sides to begin with. And then if possible, if there's plenty of time for it, I would actually want to get my entire neck tattooed. But I know how that would be freaking awful at the same time.
Yes.
Like getting the entire neck because I heard from several people that getting a neck tattoo is holy shit. It's kind of one of the worst spots to actually get a tattoo, with kind of other couple of exceptions, such as the armpit, I heard is very awful as well.
The eyes. Some people have done the eyes. I don't know if it's painful though.
But yeah, because of this, I would start off with the sides and then work my way into the middle. And if I were to then get like maybe 2 or 3 days of appointments, then I would definitely do this. I mean, I always like to I always like to see it that way, right? This is a temporary pain that will give you a reward for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You just have to suck it up for like, how much is it? Like, let's say if you do then 3 days, it's like maybe then even 24 hours, like in total. 24 hours for then the rest of your life, it's definitely something that you can suck up, I think.
Yeah, it was like and I learned that after, like when I did the back-to-back, I was so pleased that I did 2 days back-to-back so I wouldn't have to. I've seen people get a whole sleeve done in like 4 days and they just camp out at the tattoo parlor. And it's pretty sucky at the time, like it just does.
Yeah.
But it's worth it because it's more annoying to have to keep going back. And especially for us, because we don't just do it randomly. It's like we're timing it with our deload normally, exactly. If it's like a decent sized tattoo. Yeah. So I'm very excited for that. And the addiction's real because I'm already, as I told you, looking into like, what do I want to do next? But I want to make sure, because people ask, does it impact bodybuilding? A neck I wouldn't imagine at all. Because it's like, what are you hiding on your neck?
Yeah.
Nothing. But I want a full sleeve. But I know I shouldn't do the full sleeve just yet.
No, Steve. You got too good of arms, honestly. So don't do it yet.
Maybe the half sleeve and have Shenron on this hand, and I'm going to think Kurama maybe on the other hand. That's what I'm thinking. But anyway.
I mean, honestly, especially if you want to go pro, don't do it now.
Yeah, it's not a smart move.
Yeah. You still have time when you're then old enough for this, to be honest. Like, honestly, why not, right? Why not wait? Because I definitely sometimes, especially when it comes to bodybuilding, think like, shit, I would love to have actually then my arms being kind of visible and open, because it really takes away kind of details. Really. Of course, the shape is visible. That's for sure. But you can't really see the vascularity and all that kind of stuff. And that makes your arms look bigger and just like those small kind of details, you know, when there's kind of, I don't know, a little bit of striations, something that you then don't really see. And that is, especially on the triceps, for example, you can't really see the feathering. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I have seen, however, models get like their makeup over the top. So like makes it look like it's completely gone. But I don't think with like the tanning and like it just wouldn't work, that whole kind of so it's not worth it. But I'm definitely gonna have to get myself booked in at some point, because my appetite's building up, especially if I see you getting your one done. I was like, but Das Gym is gonna be really cool, and I've been told they're gonna have they've got a restaurant in there. They're gonna have a restaurant open. Des Annabelle. So apparently it's been closed and they're renovating it, so that's going to be open. So
I was already promised a good espresso.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. And if I don't get a good espresso, I talked
Does he know who you are?
Yeah. I've talked about recently on the show how much of an espresso snob I am now. So I want a good espresso.
I'm assuming I said he because I'm assuming it was the owner you spoke to.
No, it was Julia, a former client of mine.
I know Julia, yes.
Yeah, she promised me an espresso.
So she knows you well, and I think the hardest thing is going to be, it's going to be worse than like post prep and you have like an all you can eat buffet, for example. It'll be way worse than that, because I just want to try everything. Oh man, I'm like, how am I going to hold myself
all
back?
Of the machines. I really want to just like use this as completely annihilating myself. Maybe even
just
like
before Rhabdo.
I don't really want to push it that far, but more so like, okay, I'm doing like one set here on that machine.
Yes.
I'm going over to that machine. So you're basically then spending more time racking and unracking than the machines, rather than spending time on the actual machine.
Yeah. Though I was almost thinking maybe we should chat like between us and be like, let's follow like the same, like on the same machines, the same plan, and just because we have 3 days, I think, where we can train, or at least me and Mike do, because we have to leave early on the Sunday. So it's like we could do like a lower push pull or something, or just full body every day. Just fuck it, just by the end. But I'm very excited, for that, because that's what I was planning for my 30th. So it's kind of like allowing that kind of to go ahead. And the apartment we're in looks really cool, really fun. And I don't even know what the flight is, but it's short. It's not expensive.
2 hours for you.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
And guys, can I tell you what? It is double the length or the amount of time for the guys out of the UK, but they are spending half the money as a flight from Berlin to Vienna. How fucked up is that?
Ridiculous. So you're going to fly?
Probably, yeah. I was thinking about actually traveling on train. I just like traveling on train, to be honest.
Same.
Because if you really think about it, the time that you're spending getting to the airport, getting through the check-in, sitting or the security, then sitting at the gate, then boarding, then leaving, all in all, you're maybe only flying for like 2 hours, but the entire process is still like 5-6 hours long. And with the train, I'm still traveling like 8 hours. But from Berlin, it's only a 1 hour flight. So I would probably still save like three hours in total. But the train is just nice, you know? You can walk around, you can go to the toilet, you can sit there with your notebook and all that kind of stuff. I just like that, to be honest. It's a convenient way of traveling.
Yeah, train. I always picture. That's why when we went to Margate, I was literally like, I want to go somewhere for the weekend where we can use the train and don't have to hire a freaking car. Because even a car can be a bit of a annoying, although it does allow for a bit of freedom. But
from
trains,
from a traveling perspective, yes, but you're still sitting behind the wheel, you know.
Yeah,
and that's. I was thinking about actually booking or renting a car and then driving down there, because I was playing with the thought of actually incorporating it or kind of combining it with a snowboard trip afterwards. Thing is, though, that the snowboarding areas during that time is on the other side of Austria, which would take me another 4 to 5 hours by car just to get there. And I then thought, like, no, it's too much. Anyway, the car trip would also then be like 8 hours for me. And then the money that you're spending on a car, you're not doing that much for the environment if you really think about it. I don't know the differences now of traveling by car, so the footprint that you're leaving, and it's not that
it's kind of the train or the airplane's going there anyway.
And with a car, you're just like sitting there for 8 hours having to concentrate. And if you were to travel by train, you could actually then sit, work, and all that kind of stuff, you know.
No, I 100% agree. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited for that. That's like the most exciting thing in my short term, because me and Charlotte,
I was just thinking that you're going to say in my life.
In my life, something very exciting just happened today, but I can't talk about that. And
something arrived with a package. It wasn't.
Well, something did arrive yesterday, but that's not what I was excited about. Something we literally just came off was what I'm excited about. The call we just had.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I was like, how did you get that? I was like, that's why I'm so hyped.
No, that's true.
Sorry, that's an inside discussion that will become public at some point. So I'm already teasing, which is a great marketing idea. How's everything else going for you? You've already actually mapped everything out, so you're going to be overreaching for the Vienna trip.
Yes, exactly. So the plan is, and this was more like a short-term decision that I took on Sunday evening, because I was approaching week number 4 here for this mesocycle. And then I decided short-term, because I mapped things out and thought a little bit about it on how to best go about the next upcoming weeks, to take a 4-day deload. And that started on Monday to Thursday. And then I'm hitting the gym again on Friday, starting the new mesocycle, pushing all the way then to the midst of September, because we are then going on a shorter trip with my family, because it's also Katie's birthday. This allows me to once again incorporate something like a 5-day deload where I'm not training at all, for example, and then go for the next bout, which pushes me all the way then to the Vienna trip, where I'm then trying to really, really push it as hard as I can up until the point where we are then having our last sessions, hopefully, at Das Gym. And then, hopefully, of course, I get a new tattoo, which then needs me or allows me to once again recover from the overreaching as well. So that's the plan. And sometimes I think this is where then autoregulative deloads come in quite handy. And while I like to have pre-planned deload, it's not necessarily pre-planned in the sense of like, okay, on that day you are doing the deload. It's more like, okay, after 4 to 5 weeks, I would like to have a deload. So we are aiming to actually then push over the entire mesocycle that hard. And if we don't, then of course we are extending the mesocycle up until the point where we need one. I don't really see a lot of value in first taking a deload after like 9 or 10 weeks, to be honest. I think that often you haven't really then pushed it hard enough. At least that's my perception, and you could have easily maybe increased even the sets or so, because you've just recovered that well. And while I'm not the biggest fan of something like set progression, to be honest, just in very rare cases, this is one of those occasions where if your mesocycle is actually then an 8 or 9 week long mesocycle, then probably even with a higher relative intensity, you did perhaps undershoot the volume target that would have been more productive for you.
Yeah, I think this is a great discussion, because I think it's very valuable to know that you don't have to deload every 5th week necessarily. Yes. But it's also very valuable to know that you generally deload every like 6th week or whatever it is, or 4th week or whatever it is, because you know that if you kind of meet thresholds for growth, that then if you train hard and you look to beat last week's performance, you get closer and closer to your kind of maximum that you can recover from, you're going to have to generally deload in around this week. If you don't have that foresight, it's like, well, like you said, what are you doing every week? Are you just kind of are you at this kind of growth? Like, are you maintaining that stimulus for growth and you're therefore accumulating fatigue? Or are you just like pissing away time where you're not maybe growing as much as you could just to extend the block for as long as possible? It's like, unless you're a newbie, or maybe you had some breaks in between where you had a holiday and like you had excess days off and the mesocycle got spread longer. Most people who are relatively well advanced, who are very consistent with their training and pushing hard, for them to go for 10 weeks without a deload, then your skeptical eyebrow does kind of go.
Especially, we have to take a look at it from different perspectives, I think, because you could always say and make the argument, okay, when we are working out at MAV, let's say, for the vast majority of our mesocycle, but we are not doing any kind of set progression, so we are getting better at handling that workload maybe even as well, and that's why we can continue to push forward without actually adding some kind of sets. I can definitely see that point, but then if we then were to take a deload in, let's say, week number 10, and that individual also says like, okay, a deload is a time where I'm not training and providing a stimulus. While this may be true, a deload has inherent values as well of reducing accumulated fatigue so that you are then able to push forward, bringing down adaptive resistance as well, and especially give the joints and connective tissues a break. Only because nothing has broken yet or left you uninjured over a long period of time, it doesn't mean that this will always continue being the case. Now, let's say you have pushed on for like 10 weeks, but never really, for example, added a little bit more in terms of a set because you were able to recover from that. It will probably end up being the same amount of total workload with, in comparison to a 5-to-1 paradigm, or no, a 4-to-1 paradigm, 2 times, with then maybe a little bit added sets, because you could also there recover from that. So by the end of those 10 weeks, comparing them side by side, one has 2 deloads in it, the other one has has only 1 deload in it. I think that the one with 2 deloads would have probably seen the maybe even the better results or the same results, with less accumulated fatigue, with less wear and tear, and with less, perhaps even psychological burden as well. While I also like to be in the gym, taking breaks at times is also something that I started to very much appreciate as well.
Yeah, I think it's I kind of think about earning a deload, not being forced into one. Like you're just pushing yourself where you're like, I can't push this for another week, or at best, I'll maintain this. And at times I have done, I don't know how often you've done it, Pascal, where you're like, I'm just going to, normally for me, it's like lifestyle reasons. I'm like, I need to extend this mesocycle by 1 week. And I do that. And I'm like, man, that week was trash. Like, that was not a productive week of training, because essentially that is where I'm just like repeating performance, or I'm trying to grind out extra kind of reps just to kind of beat last week's performance. It's just not a productive week of training. So yeah, you want to be in, basically the goal is to be at that maximum adaptive volume for as long as time as possible, but inevitably that's a moving target, so you can't just like sit at the same performance all the time, because eventually that's going to drop out of even being growth. Although for someone kind of advanced, that's going to be a long time before that becomes completely like out of the range of meeting thresholds for growth, because it's not like our 3 to 4 RAR suddenly becomes like 5 after like a week. It's going to take like a month.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger. Of course, you need to always take a look at from a different perspective on your own beliefs. I think it's very important. Same goes then, so that you're not ending up just parroting what it is that you heard somewhere else, and you just take this as the truth or reality. So when it comes to deloads, of course, it's not that you have to have a normal deload setup. You can deload in many different ways. You don't even have to call it a deload or so. If you're just like, same for me now, completely taking a rest for like 4 days, maybe you are the one who needs only like those 4 days. Could very well be, even from a connective tissue perspective, right? You could be that individual who can push on for like 10 weeks, whereas other people are saying like, if you never really take a deload, you will get hurt at some point. That may be true for some people, but also for some others, it's not the case. Same goes then for, on a lower time frame, for example, working out 7 days per week. There's a general kind of theme in the fitness industry when it comes to the evidence-based approach of like, you have to train 6 days per week. Well, you don't have to, but you can't train 7 days per week. That's kind of the normal saying. While I think that there's definitely some truth to it, it misses kind of a little bit of context behind it. So why is it recommended? And are there exceptions to that as well? And I can think of a lot of exceptions to that as well. And the same then applies to the deload. We shouldn't really just like parrot what we've heard somewhere else. And of course, you could also be the one that trains 7 days per week when the context and the environment allows for it. Right? I don't think that someone who is training full body workouts should train 7 days per week. I don't think that's a great idea. But if you are then that guy who has more like a bro split, but spreads it out throughout 7 days, yeah, I could see that this may be even a feasible approach.
Yeah, I think this is, what's that meme? It's like maturing in the gym is doing, I don't know, re-racking your weights. It's like maturing as a coach or a programmer and understanding kind of programs versus principles is that like there are many roads to Rome, and the context is so unbelievably key in every scenario where I could certainly you asked me 3 years ago or something and someone say, should I train 7 days a week? And I would probably say like blanket no. And most times I would say most people probably don't want to be training 7 days a week. But I could see someone doing that and being very fine and productive. And the same with deloads. And this is something I wanted to bring up. This is something like people get caught up, like my clients, where they're like, oh no, like I'm deloading here, but I'm going on holiday here and it doesn't quite line up. And I'm just like, don't worry about it. We can maybe extend. Normally we deload every 5th week, but we can extend this mesocycle by doing like a mini deload maybe in the middle of it, like you've basically just done, and we can extend it. It's just like you can play with these principles to get to the end result that we're looking for. And it's just about kind of, and for us and our clients and what you're doing there is trying to be quote unquote optimal in your own environment where you're providing as much kind of growth stimulus and pulling back to allow for more of that. So you just don't burn out, because you could, like, I don't know, someone might look at it and they'll be like, oh yeah, I have a holiday and I don't know, now for you, I don't know, it's like 6 weeks time, I'll just continue to train for that long. And you know, from practical experience and the level of advancement you are, it's just not going to be feasible to actually train well for that long. So rather than just burn out and eventually have to deload or forced into one, you're pre-planning and setting yourself up for success. And that's where individualization and understanding that these are concepts and principles that you can play with and they're malleable comes in handy, and like there isn't one set way to do things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, right? Especially longevity. But also there there's no value in just like saying to someone, if you never really deload, or you only deload every 10th week, that their longevity is kind of cut short, or that they can't really do this for a prolonged period of time, because there will probably always be exceptions to that rule as well, right? There will always be people who will just like plow through it without any kind of injuries, without any kind of psychological burden on them, etc., etc. It's just because the person that they am, right? And the same then goes to something like 7 days per week. And who's to say you can't really? So because if you really think about the frequency, right? And we say, all right, let's take the example that someone is training like a bro bodybuilding split of normally training each and every single body part like once per week. If they then were to split this up into, hey, I'm training now 7 days, of course, it's not 7 days of a training week. It's more like the Gregorian calendar week. But the beginning of the week is then also the end of the week. It's definitely enough of a time frame in between for that muscle group to then recover. And perhaps even from a connective tissue perspective, could possibly be that it then was able to recover as well. Would that be something that many people are able to pull through for like 10 years, 20 years? I don't think that they can, but I don't want to be the person who says like, you can't do this. I wouldn't recommend it, but there's probably always someone who's that fucked up who wants to just like train 7 days per week for 10 years straight or so, right? And to blankly say like, no, this is bad because longevity and you're going to get injured, right? Or you're going to burn out. Like, honestly, it's the same when it comes to work. Yes, lots of people will burn out if they have like constantly 16-hour days work week, right? 7 days a week. But we know from plenty of people who do this for years who never really burn out. It's just like that blanket statement is something that I don't really, even though that I am someone who's promoting not training 7 days per week or taking like regular deloads, even though that they don't have to be pre-planned, having them somewhere in there. I also want to take a look at it from a different perspective and remind people to be cautious about making those blanket statements of like, you can't train 7 days per week. You have to have a deload every 6 weeks or so, because it's simply not right.
This is why we are not popular, Pascal.
Yeah.
Because we try not to, and I'm sure we have in the past, make blanket statements, black and white statements, that people really like them. They like that kind of dogma. But this is why whenever I put out content, like if I could remove some of the precursors that I put in, I think it would become much more sexy. It would maybe get more shares. But I always put in something like I reshared the infographic that I made a while ago about recomping. And I said, for most people, I don't think you should attempt recomping. And it's like, if I just remove for most people, don't attempt recomping. Yeah. Like that would maybe get more likes and clicks and stuff, but it isn't what I think. Whereas I think some people play to that and they pander to it. I don't agree with it, but I think it's just a great reminder that yes, there's like some things are black and white, like you need to stress the body and overload it. And sometimes you might accumulate fatigue where you're going to have to dissipate it somehow, but it's not like that has to happen through a deload, that it has to be 7 days. You have to go into the gym and do whatever in the gym because that's what X said. It's like, well, no, you can achieve that in many different ways. So I think that's well said. It's actually like, I just finished my mini cut where I took I started training on Thursday. So I started my mesocycle 3 days early, basically, because I didn't need a full deload because I hadn't pushed the mini cut that hard with the training and I'd recovered in time. And for me in my lifestyle, it's actually a bit of like in my head, it's a bit of annoyance because today is my rest day and I'm like, I want to train today, but I can't do upper because I just did upper yesterday and today tomorrow's upper and then lower. And rest days are normally Sundays, but I can do that. Whereas, some people, they might just decide like, okay, I could have decided I'll do another 3 days and extend the deload maybe longer than it needs to be, but there might even be benefits to that. But I wanted to get back to training as soon as possible because that's just me and who I am. And also that was meant to line up, which is what I brought up ages ago, was maybe a holiday me and Charlotte were meant to be going on. We can't go on because basically this is why you don't want an office job and be a manager. Too many of the people that she manages are off, so she can't take that.
Shit.
week off. So I'm like, so when are we going to go away? And like, maybe next year. So great, we've got no holidays this year. I'm like, fuck. I timed my mesocycle to line up with that. Now I'm like, how can I time it up so I can overreach for Vienna? I'm not sure if I can. It's a bit long.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's a great discussion because once again, there are so many things that we just don't really think about. We just take it as for granted that this is how it's supposed to be, or we never really question that. And often it's the things that are super simplistic that we never really question because it's so simplistic in nature, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like no, makes sense. And it really makes sense. If someone tells you like, don't train 7 days per week because connective tissue needs a little bit of a rest as well and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, sure. It makes sense. There is also validity to it. Yeah. But if you get up on your rest day and you actually feel pretty amazing, that doesn't mean that you have to train because there are always, or not always, but often also diminishing returns. Only because you feel great today doesn't mean that you will feel great like in 5-6 days from now, because these are then the after effects of you not having a rest day. But if you have great experience with your body, a lot of things in your external or outside of the gym doesn't really change, and you know that you can pull this off, then be my guest and do this.
Yeah, I think that's a good point where, especially as you get more advanced, you have to consider not only what you're doing and how it's affecting things today, but also in future, because you get that person who after their deload, they're just like going as hard as like possible because they feel super fresh. It's like, yeah, but now where are you going to go next week? Like you're super sore because you maybe got some adaptive resistance come down and you're now not accustomed to training as close to failure or whatever. It's like, it's probably a good idea to just do enough this week. What are you trying to achieve from this training session today? So that's also something people can ask themselves, like, oh, should I skip my rest day? It's like, well, what, like, don't think there's kind of stimulus and recovery. So you have to also make sure you're recovered enough and then it makes sense for what you're trying to achieve in that week. So we're not trying to achieve the most stimulus every single session. We're trying to achieve enough stimulus in that session or week that we need to achieve. And then what can we do next week? So that sort of thing, I think. But yeah, it's when you understand these things more, and it just takes time to understand yourself and how to play with them and experiment with them as well. Because I've done it before where like I just get over eager at the start of like a mesocycle and I push myself too far and I'm like, I'm going to have to do a light session for this kind of exercise or whatever it is. It's just like, it happens.
Absolutely. How are things going on your end?
So, man, I don't know. I think it's just because it's warm all the time, but I just feel constantly like I'm sweating. And I don't know if that's partly related to coming into massing calories again. But actually, I described this. Now, this is going to be a great plug because we've just started the mini cup movement, which you can sign up to. And Pascal's got a great advert that explains it really nicely. But
it's even here in this episode this time.
It's going to be in this episode. Yeah. Amazing. So, yeah, it's just, for me, the mini cup was like a honeymoon. In like I talk about the honeymoon phase at like a end of mass into the beginning of a cut. I kind of call that like a honeymoon period in a cut, where it's just like you enjoy eating more wholesome foods and more fruit and veggies maybe than you had been, and you're not having as much cereals and kind of like some of those discretionary calories. Like you enjoy like just kind of feeling fit and healthy, and you feel your well-being improves, all of those sort of factors, and you're not that hungry. And things just feel better, and you get gratification on the scale, and you look visually like, oh yeah, I'm dropping. So I had that was kind of my experience with the mini cut. Like the whole time was almost like thumbs up, this is fun. And apart from training is kind of a bit boring, to be honest, in mini cut. But now coming into massing, it's like I'm in that mini cut of the mass where I'm just like, my appetite is great. I'm looking forward to every meal. Like I'm still eating plenty of like the fruit and veggies and things. And like it's kind of unique or like novel to have some cereal and like a big bowl of cereal, and training and pumps are better. Progress is already better in the gym. So it's like everything you would want from a mini cut, I'm kind of getting in that fashion. Like this kind of feels like a spurt in my off season and in my mass gaining period. So I'm enjoying it. It's really fun. And like today, I didn't want to take a rest day. I was just like, I should, because there's no way I'm recovered in time to do upper body again like today. But I'm just excited to keep moving forward. And like you did, amazing Instagram post, and we spoke a lot about it last time, where like we don't have goals really. Like we don't go into the gym and think we're motivated, but I'm just like enjoying the process. And it's, I don't know, it's just great. And even at this training age of doing it over a decade, I feel like I'm learning how to do things even better. And it's just,
I would even say that
like
I enjoy training now more than I did in the past. Even though that I have, of course, my little issues and niggles and limitations here and there, training is just fun, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's why I have sometimes a very hard time understanding why people don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because you've been so disconnected from what people enjoy. Honestly, because you've been doing this since such a long time. And it's like, don't you see what I see? Like, take a look at this. And then I just showed it to Katie, that one part where Arnold is talking about the pump and all that kind of stuff, right? And I was just showing it to her like, this is it. It's amazing. Don't you see it? And I was just like, yeah. I mean,
my least favorite time for training was not my newbie period, but it was that kind of intermediate phase where, you know, where you have perma intermediates. I was in that position where I was just like this perma intermediate because I just had no periodization. I just had go into the gym and work my fucking ass off. And I just started regressing. I didn't know deloads, fatigue management, any of this. And I got like little injuries and like my lift started to falling off. And it was just like super depressing. Whereas now, and I wonder if this is the same for you, Pascal, and this is what I try to get to my clients, it's like really understanding what you're trying to achieve from every session. And so I go in there and I just try and achieve that. So it's like lifts don't hurt. I'm not trying to like in the past, I'd just like, I don't know, deadlift and try and lift as much weight as possible. If I came out of the gym and my back was the thing that I felt most like fatigued, it was fine because I deadlifted. Whereas now it's like, I want to leave the gym on a leg day with my hamstrings and quads pumped with fatigue locally in there. And I'm a bit unstable. And in week one, it wants to be just enough. And then from there on, I hope it accumulates more. So it's so nice kind of understanding and like doing movements and be like, I feel my back in every element of this lat pull down, not just this is lat pull down, I do this. So it's nice when you have that kind of real connection with what you're doing every single session. And it's not just I'm doing what the plan says and I think this is right. It's like actually like my body, like it's giving me feedback. I know this is right for me. And that's, it's a play, like it's a really blissful place. So I understand Arnie with the pump because it's like if he probably connected that well with his training. So it's
I've
nice.
never really given it any kind of a thought about it, of what it is that he just said about kind of when did you the least enjoy your training? When is it that you enjoy it the most? But I think it's the same for me as well. Especially like 2 to 5 years, I would even say the time frame where I enjoyed training the least. Simply because the progress didn't really come as quickly anymore, but you still weren't really impressive. You still didn't really look apart. You still weren't really super strong. So at the same time, you didn't really have that great mind-muscle connection. Technique wasn't really there. And at the time, you didn't really know any better and you thought that you're doing everything right. And you just start getting frustrated of like, why am I not getting stronger? Or why am I not looking like the other people? When is this finally happening? It's like waiting for a promotion that is never really happening. Everyone around you is getting promotions. It's like that meme with who's she called? What's her name again?
Oprah.
Exactly. Everyone's getting kind of a promotion, and the same goes for like everyone's gaining and progression, and you're getting strength, you're getting muscle mass, but you were just like left in the dark, and you thought like, what is this shit? How long should I be training for? And I think this is probably also then the time when most people then look into something like maybe anabolic steroids because they are getting frustrated with their progress. They have no one to teach them any kind of better that what it is that they are experiencing is absolutely normal. And this is probably just normal progression for a natural athlete. But this was the most depressing time when it comes to training because you had so many questions that you didn't really have the answer for. And at the same time, you've been putting so much work and effort in, and it simply doesn't show.
Yeah,
right? At least not initially, or in the time frame that you thought it's going to show. And I think also that this, because it's kind of that time frame, maybe 2 to 5 years even, because it's such a long time frame, people lose the interest in it and the motivation for it because it doesn't really come easy anymore. And that's something that I definitely can relate to. But after that, it's kind of like the the curve of the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes.
At first, it's rapidly going up. You're seeing amazing progress. Things are changing on sometimes even the weekly basis. And then all of a sudden, it's just kind of going downhill. And you think like, what's going on? I'm getting injured and nothing is working anymore. Should I point my feet outwards? Should I squat this way? Etc., right? Oh, fucking hell. Now I'm injured here again. What about nutritional timing? What about protein intake? Carbs? What about fats, right? All that kind of stuff then happens during that time frame, and then it takes a long time to then get out of the hole again. And once you then come out of it, you see the light. It's kind of everything makes sense, and you have a completely different look on training, and then it starts to becoming actually very, very joyful. Everything before that is kind of just the warm-up for then the show. Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality, and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.
Yeah, I think that's so well described, and actually is very similar to my own journey. Like 2 to 5 years when I was at university, it was just a case of like, right, I'm doing this cardio to burn the fat. I'm eating this protein to gain the muscle. I'm doing this training as hard as I can and look to progress. And I just would be stalling on everything.
Yes.
And I tried so hard. I'd wake up. I remember first thing in the morning, have my Maxi Muscle protein shake with creatine. I'd go to the gym, come back, have my boiled eggs. I'd remove the yolk. It was like in student halls. I'd have like my oatmeal, eat that. And then I'd go to like the salad bar at lunch and I'd scoop all the tuna with as little mayonnaise as possible because they mix the two, but sometimes not quite mix it all in properly. And like do all these things thinking I was going to transform my body, and I literally looked like I didn't lift pretty much. I looked like kind of just a lean kind of athletic runner type of look. And I think it is like you said, you either look towards, I think everyone just looks for advice for where to go, and maybe they look towards some of the gym bros. I didn't, because I was like introverted shy person, and maybe they advise you, hey, try this little pill, whatever, and you go down that route, or you Google it and you find what I did, and I found forums, and eventually took a while to get there. I found 3DMJ, I found Lyle McDonald, I found like the kind of, I saw through the matrix in this sense. And that then I got a new spurt in results, and you just keep doing, and that was my path then, was like educate myself further. And I think for people with average genetics, kind of like us, like you have to seek, like either you go down the potentially the anabolic route because you ask a certain person and that's the way they got around that, or you seek to further educate yourself, or you're just that person who you just grow because you're a little bit genetically blessed versus the average person.
Yes.
But yeah, that's just like my journey.
Absolutely. No, I have another analogy, but I won't really bring it up because otherwise we're just like throwing around with analogies the entire time. And I think that the audience and the listener has understood where it is and where we are coming from, what it is that we've experienced and went through, and what it is that we are now experiencing in comparison to the past. And I think many people go through that. Many people have an extreme approach at first because they are also kind of so desperate, right? They are just like thinking nothing is really working. So I'm clearly doing too little in order to then make me grow or see the results, right? And then they are doing everything they possibly can. When I was cutting back then, I was so extreme with just also activity and cardio. No wonder that I ended up always digging a hole and then ending up being overly hungry and ending up with kind of binge eating and all that kind of stuff, because I was constantly trying to add more cardio because I thought like, yeah, why not, right? It will accelerate my fat loss and make it even better and all that kind of stuff, right? And ended up on a Saturday, right, while I was single, early in the morning, or sometimes even because back then I was still following along with Bundesliga, so football. And during that time, that one gym had actually television with Bundesliga. And I thought like, hey, why not? I want to watch Bundesliga, and then I'm going on the Stairmaster for an hour and watch kind of Bundesliga. Holy fuck, I would never really think about this anymore. It would be an awful idea. I mean, that's something like this,
I did the same thing with cardio where, again, this was at uni. I do that training in the morning, and then before dinner, I do sprints on the treadmill because I was like, then I've earned my dinner. And then every Sunday, me and my mate at uni would go for like this 15-kilometer run where we'd always try and beat our like best time. Man, I worked so hard during that period of time for so little results. Like literally, you'd look at me and just be like, wait, you go to the gym and you actually watch what you eat? You just look like this average dude. It kind of makes me cry a little bit. It's kind of like, hard I would work.
It's kind of like in the movies when someone is always trying to make an honest buck. And he never really makes it. He's still poor as fuck. And then someday he sees a friend of his being rich as fuck because he's doing criminal activities. And then he's kind of tempted, should I go down that route as well? Or am I continuing the honest route? And maybe if he's continuing the honest route, he will actually make it, but he never really knows because he then turns down the dishonest route and just goes down the criminal activities.
Are you saying steroids are dishonest?
No, but I can definitely see how you can interpret it that way. No.
I don't know where I was going with this. I thought I had something else to say about it. But no, it's just, I'm just super enjoying training. And I think that should be your experience from mini cuts. And I think that's where people inappropriately use them and where I inappropriately used them in the past. Because I was like, I had these preconceived ideas. If I stay leaner, I grow more muscle versus fat. It's like, actually, that is not true because the principle of like gaining muscle is mostly training performance and how is that going? Yeah. And P ratios has got that I can understand why I got that misconstrued because I think it hadn't been dug into enough and it was based off kind of data that wasn't actually kind of appropriate towards humans. But yeah, it's just great because it's like a never ending journey, bodybuilding. You just keep learning. It's like trying out different exercises and things and seeing, if I just do it this way, it feels a little bit better there. And it's just a never ending journey where you just keep learning and hopefully that means you just keep getting better. And I just saw a quote today. It might have been a quote I shared. I think it was a quote I shared like 10 years ago or something. It was like, there are no ceilings, there are only plateaus. Yeah. And it's like, that's kind of what natural bodybuilding is kind of like. You're just continuing trying to get past that next plateau in a sense.
Yeah, and isn't it everything in life? Kind of. Yeah. I mean, you do something and you probably fail at times and then you just move forward and probably be better, right? So I was actually now, because I find it very, very cool, into small magic tricks with cards and stuff like this. So this is something that by the end of the day I'm practicing.
The moustache, of course.
Of course, yes. And something like this, I have no idea. And it's so frustrating now at first to coordinate things with your hands. And I simply don't get it, how fast people can coordinate those kind of things, right? But it's also fun at the same time. While it is frustrating, you are fucking awful at that. At the same time, it's fun, right? And I don't really want to do things out of frustration, out of desperation, out of, I don't know, because other people expect that from me. I want to have a fun time doing those things, and especially like bodybuilding. If you don't really have a fun time, either you are in those first 2 to 5 years, but if you still you're a miserable fuck afterwards, after those 5 years, then either stop or come to Revive Stronger, to the coaching service, and we can help you with that.
I have 2 things. The first one is, are you doing the magic just as a personal hobby or is it with the kids?
So I want to do it
Be honest.
as a hobby, but then with the kids together, because they find it fascinating as well. Yeah. We've been watching some kind. So the reason why it came to be is a colleague of Katie. He is a little bit of a magician. I say a little bit because it's nothing in comparison to what it is that you see online or on YouTube, right? And he was actually giving a show at our birthday party here at home, which was very, very cool, right? it was more like a show for than the kids. And you could see it by then the things that he did. But that was like the kids were fascinated by that. And I thought like, hey, why not try to practice kind of a couple of things and then entertain the kids with these kind of things as well. And yeah, I don't know, I find it funny. And now I have like 2 card decks at home where I can practice kind of movements and all that kind of stuff. And I would then, because I think it's overwhelming what it is that you want to focus on. And I just like cards. And like just focusing on card tricks and doing them. That's something that I hopefully become good at some point and don't lose the interest after a couple of times. So.
This is making me think I need to pick back up on training Ada, because that's a good little trick. Like being able to do a lot with your dog. And that's something I need to pick back up. But then the second thing was, and reverting back to our discussion around like being in the gym and really understanding what I'm trying to achieve from a session, that's something I really try and get my clients to understand. Like, what are they looking to achieve out of a session? Because sometimes I'll see them doing things like, why did they made a form manipulation? I'm like, why did you make that form manipulation? They're like, I saw this person online and they said I shouldn't be doing it this way, I should be doing it this way. And I'm like, but how did it feel to you, how you did it before to how it feels now? And he was like, like, what am I looking to achieve out of this? I'm like, you're looking to achieve the best stimulus within the muscle, probably for the least fatigue and nagging kind of feelings and uncomfortability. It's like, like, I don't know, it felt amazing the way I was doing it before, but I changed it this way just because I saw online an expert said I have to be doing it this way. I'm like, well, if anyone says you have to be doing it this way or anything, already that's red flags. Or it's things like, should I be adding a set if I'm feeling good for it in that session? I'm like, I try and run them through. Why would we add a set? It doesn't just come because you're feeling good in that session.
But that's the good thing, to have someone like you by his side, his or her side, you know. Now that you bring it up, it's never meant in an assaulting or offending manner or so. I think experimenting, going through different things, and also trying and testing things out can actually be a very feasible thing to be doing. And this is something that even we do, right? When we go in there and just test things out every now and then. But of course, the coach is there to make sense of things and to help you avoid certain mistakes that nearly everyone is going through at some point of their lifting career, so that you see the results hopefully faster and learn things faster. It's kind of like human civilization, you know. You discover a thing, and based off of that, the next generation can build their knowledge on. And you don't have to rediscover it every single time for yourself.
That's it. That's exactly it. Like, I'm trying to teach them, like, they know the principles, but they don't actually know how to necessarily apply them yet to themselves. I see it all the time because, like, generally I think the evidence-based industry is like, volume's the key driver to hypertrophy. So they come on board, I see their training program, and I'm like, wow, we are kind of stripping back this volume by over 50% sometimes. And that's the most common thing I find myself doing when people come on. I think from the outside in, people might look at us and think, they're evidence-based guys, like they probably use a high volume approach. It's like, well, I already have a problem with high volume because that is like, depends on the person and the situation. But actually quite often we're stripping things back because we focus on the principles and we need quality before quantity. And that's why I really love coaching too, because it's like it is almost like you're handing down everything you have learned. And that's why I started like Revive Strong in the first place. It wasn't even a coaching thing. It was just sharing my experience and handing down that experience to others. So it's really nice to go on this journey and then be able to share it with other people. And I guess that's what the improvement season is also.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think on that note, we can then end the show because it has been in my opinion, Steve, maybe we are just still a little bit euphoric from the call that we had prior to that one. But I have the feeling that this was a very positive and good chat. And once again, it could be that I'm just like absolutely biased and the listener thinks like this was an episode like every other episode.
They have to let us know in the comments now. Was it up there in terms of the improvement season? We need to know your top 5 improvement season episodes, please.
People can't recall, and I can't even recall.
I definitely cannot recall. But no, I thought it was a good. Like, I always enjoy these, and people seem to take away stuff. And I hopefully didn't derail us too much talking about tattoos.
It's absolutely all right. So guys, as always, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for tuning in. Every support is very much appreciated. So leave a like, leave a subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, I really do hope that you enjoy the new ads that I created. Yes, I'm a magician, not only with cards in the future, but also with digital products as well. Yeah. Once again, thank you very much for listening, and I guess I'll speak to you next week. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Steve. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.